Good evening and welcome to the BBC News Report at TPS.
One of the biggest humanitarian problems continuously in the media today is undoubtedly the refugee crisis. People are forced to flee from Syria, Afghanistan and Iraq due to war and organisations such as ISIS terrorising their homes and lives. All over Europe, migrants are risking everything to find a safe, war-free home, but are only greeted by prejudice and hostility. On the coast of Greece, every day, over 2,000 refugees will land. That's only the beginning of their traumatic journey through Europe.
The Rural Refugee Network is a fantastic initiative to help house and integrate Syrian families into our communities in and around Petersfield. A group of volunteers decided that empathy just wasn't enough and began fundraising and accepting donations in order to raise £10,000 for each of the 5 families.
This is Mr. Graham, the head of geography here at TPS. Of course, the refugee crisis plays a huge part in geography. So, Mr. Graham, what do you know about the refugee crisis?
So it's all started in northern Africa, places like Syria, who have been forced to move out of their country for a number of reasons. So the initial reason it started was it can be linked back to climate change. So the people in Syria, the Syrian farmers, have had their land devastated by the increasing temperatures and the lack of rainfall, and this has led to them having to move out of the rural areas and into the cities. This kind of then spiraled out of control, led to civil unrest, and the government actually started to turn on these people, and it started a civil war within Syria, and it led to millions of people having to flee the country as they tried to escape the war zone. The other reason can be linked back to the group known as IS and their operations in the area, which is trying to unstabilise the political system and get across their agenda of how they believe the world should be run and kind of down with the Western civilizations. And again, this has just increased the problem across the area and has led to, again, millions of more people trying to escape a number of different countries as they're again trying to escape the war zone. They're heading to Turkey, and which is their kind of gateway into Europe. From Turkey, they unfortunately have to do quite a treacherous trip across the Mediterranean Sea as they try to enter the EU in places like Greece. Sometimes they go to Italy, but unfortunately this journey is incredibly dangerous with illegal smuggling, facilities which are in no way suitable for transporting these large groups of people, and it's led to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of deaths.
So what is your personal view on immigration?
So it should be spread across the wealthy countries who do have the facilities to look after these people, but in the long term we have to look at finding solutions in their countries of origin. The problem with this being that there are a lot of different opinions, a lot of difficult politics going on, so trying to find a peaceful solution, I imagine, would be incredibly difficult.
Interesting. If you could give a message to the refugees, what would it be?
It would be, although this might sound quite patronising, but it's try and stay calm. Know that we are thinking of you. We are trying to our best to provide you with help, support, money, aid, and improve your lives. But yeah, I imagine that might be a difficult message to kind of hear in the desperation that they're currently in.
Thank you for your time. Back to the studio.
I've been in contact with Julia Thistleton-Smith, co-chair of the Rural Refugee Network, and we asked her a few questions. We asked her what the inspiration behind the initiative was. Several of their trustees had been deeply moved by pictures of Syrian children fleeing their homes. After the death of Alan Kurdi on a Turkish beach, public support swung towards giving more assistance to the Syrian refugees. A group of them then decided that they had to turn talk and empathy into positive action, and on their return they wrote a letter to Richard Harrington, the MP minister in charge of the government's Syrian Vulnerable Persons Relocation Scheme. The 5 families will all be coming from refugee camps around Syria, based in Turkey, Iraq, Egypt and Lebanon. They'll be registered in their camps with the UNHCR, which is the UN's refugee agency, and the most vulnerable of those go on a list for urgent resettlement. The Home Office and the UN suggest which families come to the UK, and each family is matched to the particular home that they're able to offer. We asked her what sort of things the families would have been through. She said that each family's experience is likely to be hugely different, but they are likely to have in common that they've left Syria because it's absolutely unsafe for them to stay. They're not able to give too many details about the families because they have a right to privacy and must be allowed to arrive in their new accommodation in the same way that any new family arrives into the community. But each family will fly into the UK airport and be met by members of the Hampshire County Council and taken to their new homes.
The RRN isn't the only initiative of its kind. Similar groups are springing up all over the UK as people finally begin to see the sheer scale of the terror that these people are facing. Frostbite and psychological problems combine to make these people's lives hell, and yet even when they are rescued from camps they face prejudice and bigotry, of which their 5 families' identities have been kept secret. There is no pity for the young or disabled. One account is from a man with brittlebone disease. He said, "The boat smugglers put guns to our faces. They took my wheelchair and threw it in the water. They told me that if you want your wheelchair, you'll have to pay for its place." Whence the families are out of war-torn cities where they watched many people die, and there was an onslaught of war and bombing. They face cruelty from boat smugglers who use boats in terrible condition and force children and the elderly into boats of at least 70. Floods of these vulnerable innocents survive in camps every day, and their only chance of a normal lifestyle rests in the RRN, but more still needs to be done.
This has been BBC News Report at TPS. Thank you for watching.